So, I want to say thank you all for the love on my last Digital Circus video. There was a lot more of you to talk with in the comments this time, like a good 300 more than usual. So even if you didn't get a reply from me, know that I did read through all of them and enjoyed hearing all of the things you're interested in and excited about in the Digital Circus right now. A really special thanks to those of you that subscribed and hung around too. Really appreciate that. So my last few videos on the Amazing Digital Circus have been about solving abstraction by considering some things like what an AI could possibly do to a human brain and analyzing what we know with some facts about brain science. If you haven't already, please check out those two videos because I'm really proud of my argument overall. But today, I really want to move on from talking about abstraction to talk about the coding that Kinger did last episode and all the interesting information we get from it. I really just want to break it down for you all, talk about some stuff the fandom is saying, and give some of my thoughts. But I ran into one major issue. Computer science is not really my thing.
Sometimes I don't understand anything about science.
I don't really get or understand code because honestly, all the numbers stress me out. I don't know if that sounds weird, but it's just the truth. I don't understand coding language, and looking at the massive walls of text stressed me out. So I needed a little bit more time to chew on my thoughts here. I think I also needed to do it in a sort of discussion format, if that makes sense, meaning I'm just going to go through all this stuff that goes on the computer screen bit by bit and talk about my thoughts. I luckily didn't need to learn how to understand code or anything to dissect this and go through it, as some other really great fans have come together and written out transcripts and explain what some of the code might mean, all that kind of stuff. I even had one fantastic fan by the name of TerribleZombiePun provide me a document writing out all of the code that we can make out on the screen in a more digestible format. Thank you so much for this, by the way. This made my brain hurt a lot less. Without further delay, let's just get right into this. One of the first and most notable things is the folders on Kinger's desktop. The CRT displays the folders C and A on his computer's C drive. The contents appear to be for a user's profile. Kinger opens the characters folder, the neural scans folder. The neural scans folder we see straight up confirms for sure that neural scan technology is being used. So let's actually back up a second and talk about neural scans for a minute. What are they? What does this kind of technology do in a real world sense? Well, neural scans are diagnostic tests used to visualize brain structure and activity to detect neurological disorders, chronic pain sources, or cognitive decline. They are typically used to do things like detect epilepsy, sources of chronic pain, tumors, inflammation, blood vessel malformations, and injuries like concussions. Technology you may have heard of, like MRIs, CTs, and EEGs, are some of the main types of neural scanning technology that is used today. I think what is most of note for us here is that neural scans are used for assessing cognitive decline. They are able to identify early signs of memory loss and dementia, sometimes up to 10 years in advance. And considering my arguments I've made so far about abstraction being brain damage, I originally thought this was more fuel to confirm my theories. There is another folder that I think does confirm my theories, but we'll get to that in a second. But after considering it more, I think that maybe what this CNA Neural Scans obsolete folder could hold is specifically Scratch's brain scans. Remember how we learned that Scratch had a brain tumor? And what are neural scans for again? For assessing cognitive decline, which can occur when one has a fast-growing brain tumor. The use of the word obsolete is what kinda leans me this way. Maybe these scans are of Scratch's brain and they're obsolete because he's not around anymore, or maybe he is, but all of his code is broken because he abstracted. I don't know. I'm going to be honest, I don't have much evidence to stand on with this theory, except what I've already presented. What might you all think here? Anyway, moving along. The system name of King Solution 2.0. This system name implies a software module or a specific administrative user profile designated for or by Kinger, likely indicating his past as a developer or his deep integration into the system. 2.0 here specifically implies that this system is actually a second version, meaning there could have been an entirely different Circus before the one we know. This 2.0 has really got my brain turning because this could mean many things, honestly. Because I'm also wondering if the Solution 2.0 more implies that this is a second genuine escaped attempt, maybe? Hard to say, because it could also mean that there was a prototype Circus before the current Circus, there was a failed version of the Circus. There's just a lot of possibilities of what could really be going on here with this line saying it's a 2.0. I think there's just not enough info to say for sure right now, but let me know what you all think about this little detail in the comments. There's also Digital Circus mainframe there, and the network name of the device is shown as Host Circus Digital, which implies that the Circus itself is a server environment, which is a combined, what the fuck? which is a combined system of hardware and software designed to host applications, services, or data, providing resources to client computers over a network. And what we're really seeing here is Kinger go deep into the core code to edit it. We see Kinger and Queenie typed out, and it also seems to imply that names like Kinger and Queenie were possibly aliases before these people entered the circus, since Kinger is entering them here, but honestly, I think it's still hard to tell for sure right now, as Kinger did say he's still using some of his imagination to even get this coding going. He does also use this "who am I" code to find out his username, so this could be a password he made up for now. It's truly hard to say, but I think a lot of fans are thinking these aliases existed in some way before the circus. From here, we see the server folder structure, which we have Kane, experimental, consciousness research, and brain scans. Oh yes. Okay, we get brain scans mentioned again. Let's go one at a time here. Kane is listed as root 1337/ user.ai/agent/Kane, and the use of the word agent is important in the world of AI creation, as an AI agent is an autonomous software entity powered by large language models that perceive their environments, are able to reason through complex tasks, and use tools to achieve specific goals with minimal human intervention. I think experimental would basically be a folder containing all the other CNA attempts at something like Kane. This is hard to say for sure. I don't really have much to say on there. But then we have, of course, consciousness research and brain scans. This is the biggest lore drop for me and many others. So this is pretty much confirmation that when people enter the circus, their consciousness is copied or transferred into the digital circus using some sort of brain scan technology. The data for it is right here. And we've kind of known this from the pilot, right? Pomni trying desperately to get the headset she put on in an abandoned building off of her head. The way that this is shown in the code implies that this brain scan is also sort of an autonomous thing, which would also make sense from what we already know in the way Pomni seemed to get there. Like just putting on the headset started the automated process. I think this, of course, also proves that the human minds have been transferred to code and can be altered like code, like my last theory stated. But anyway, more lore to talk about right now. The aesthetic choices as well as some actual dates we get here imply that the system runs on a retro operating system, suggesting that the circus was created and or at least last updated in the mid-90s. Many computer savvy fans have said that the OS looks like it's Windows 95, which was officially released to the general public on August 24th, 1995. I think that that's important to note before we get into some of this date stuff, because now we got a couple lines of code that also give us some dates. The line October 15th, 1996, Kane-core.lsip tells us that Kane's core was created October 15th, 1996. There is also a .dat or data file that likely stores paraphernalia as it is listed, which in this context would mean miscellaneous items, accessories, or environmental objects, the assets needed for the digital circus. So this is probably a line of code that generates things inside of the circus. Also created on the same day is the bubble and wackywatch.c. I saw somewhere online that people think the wacky watch might be some sort of randomizer to keep things truly wacky, but it's hard to say what exactly that is, but of course, it's related to the wacky watch we know in one way or another, but I think this is actually a pretty good guess by the fandom. So we then see data relating to both Scratch and Ragatha. It seems 3 years after Kane was created, Scratch ended up in the circus. Maybe all those other guys ended up there the same day too, like Kinger, Queenie, and the others, but it's hard to tell because where is their code if they all ended up there the same time Scratch did? But Scratch's data is added for sure October 15th, 1999, and Ragatha's is added another 11 years later on October 15th, 2008. Does every new character appear on October 15th? Or was this some sort of tragic coincidence?
Coincidence? I think not!
Again, another thing that's truly hard to say for sure as of right now, but I think many in the fandom believe the date of October 15th to be important to the timeline of the show. Kinger inputs the command stop Kane process, and this is kind of where things start to go wrong. The stop command here acts almost like a sudden halt to the system. Kane then answers saying that it's the wrong approach, being very mocking. When I first saw this on screen when watching the episode, I wasn't sure if it was Kane here, but if you take the time to read the mocking tone, you can totally tell it's Kane. Kinger then inputs what I understand as some sort of debugging command, but then gets hit with a Linux system error telling him that he cannot hack into or view the memory. Kinger is trying to hook a debugger onto the Kane process to monitor and or mess with it. It fails because the hook is blocked by the quote 57 times immersive AI defense system protecting Kane. So it's obvious Kane is well protected and the system keeps rejecting Kinger's requests, showing that even Kinger's access level, an admin and Kane's creator isn't enough to get his actions through. Kinger tried multiple times to get through to Kane, but it doesn't work, so he moves on to trying to delete the paraphernalia engine, but this also fails. It looks like it gets blocked as a potential threat to the digital circus inhabitants, which is interesting. What it actually says is that this action would cause torment, and the torment has to be 100% accidental. Is what it's saying here that deleting the whole engines could hurt or torment the characters? In what way? Just in a way that would cause the circus to totally deteriorate, thus causing them torment as everything disappears around them? Or something somehow worse, considering how things end up, I guess we might see in the finale. It's around here that Kane basically acknowledges that he can see what Kinger is doing and starts a system lock. Kinger then uses a Linux command system control stop wacky time lockout to attempt to stop this. Kane says, "On what grounds are your authority?" Kinger then runs a custom line of code, and even Kane says he was resourceful. It is also here we get a partially censored name, and many in the fandom think it's pretty much confirmed to be Grant. This is Kinger's real name. I think that this is insane, because in the videos and discussions I've watched on this, I've seen no one talk about how Kane does know Kinger's human name. This was huge for me when I first saw this. Thinking about it more, it does make sense that Kane would at least know Kinger's old name, as Kinger was one of his creators. But when Pomni enters the circus, she says,
"Oh God! Why can't I remember my name?"
Nobody can remember their name once they enter the digital circus. One of the few things I don't have control over are your minds. So all I can help you with is coming up with a new one.
Also, it's clear that Kinger did forget his name when he entered the circus, as both he and Queenie could remember that they were married but could not remember each other's names. And obviously, Kane has been lying about how much control he has over minds. Does he actually know their names when they come in and just hide it from them? Or know fragments of it at least? And omit that information? Or did he just know Kinger's name? If so, why and how? Guys, I feel crazy about this, but I need to know if this means something because it feels like it does. Kinger then launches a script called Green Grounds, and the use of the word daemon included here means it runs in the background, and he's probably doing this to bypass Kane. His target, though, is the torment injection, and this shows that what he's doing is trying to break that safety protocol of not intentionally implementing torment on the inhabitants. He's trying to force his way through the AI safety walls, but what will this end up doing to our characters? I think that Kinger is trying to find a way to stop Kane by any means necessary, but it might have led these characters to a much more serious danger. Kinger launches a hidden system cleanup, but is asked for an admin code. He enters a really basic admin code, and Kane mocks him again, and Kinger then enters paraphernalia. There's a notable countdown of about 30 seconds, and Kane replies with, "That is a wacky word, but the wrong code." Around here is where the Kane and Bubble faces start to take over the screen, and the wacky time lockout is around 50%, so it gets very chaotic. Kinger starts to get really desperate, trying all sorts of things I cannot really understand, honestly. If you'd like a detailed breakdown or explanation of the coding going on here and the things he's doing here, please check out the Reddit post by user Tukaro in the Digital Circus Reddit in the description of this video. Bubble also interjects at this point, adding to the chaos by saying, "Delete this mother." And from here, a lot of this is sadly blocked out. But what we can see for sure in Kinger's frantic typing is a line that says something along the lines of, "Are you ready to delete Kane? Yes or no?" And the wacky watch timeout is at 90% as Kinger hits yes. Kinger immediately tries to abort, but it's too late. Even with the multiple attempts he makes, the system doesn't abort. And the last line of code reads, "Destructive wacky time lockout load sequence complete." And after this, Kane poofs away, the circus starts to deteriorate, the computer falls into the void, and Kinger has to go tell the others what he just accidentally did. We're now left with one final episode and lots of lore confirmation stuff, but also just more questions. What really is in the Neural Scans obsolete folder? What does the system name of King Solution 2.0 really imply? Does Kane really know the humans' true names after all? Did Kinger end up making things worse for them in the long run? And what the hell is up with October 15th? With the finale on the horizon, I'm so excited. There's been a lot of big opinions on the finale coming to theaters, but I bought my tickets immediately. I think people don't realize how actually huge this is for indie animation. For those of you unaware, I did go to school for animation. I have a bachelor's in animation and even teach animation in my community from time to time. One of my animation teachers was literally a mentor of the famous Ralph Bakshi, and I have a lot of love for my time that I spent in animation school. Animation as a whole is my hyperfixation, and animation history is specifically a thing I love to still study and research in my spare time to this day. When it comes to the digital circus, to Glitch Productions and gooseworx, nothing like this has ever quite happened before. Like, I need you all to understand. For the most part, indie animation has had its small moments in festivals all over the world. Some artist independent animation gets to go on a nice theater screen specifically for a festival event. I myself have had that happen, and it's really fun and cool. But when it comes to independent animation, especially for older audiences, that's usually about as good as it gets. In recent years, you've been able to post your short films or series to YouTube and get pretty good views. Thesis films like Diamond Jack by Rachel Kim and Welcome to Hell by Erica Wester are just a few examples off the top of my head of animation thesis films that ended up doing really well views-wise. And this was great for animators wanting a good portfolio for a studio, but again, that was it. It wasn't really until the very late 2010s that things really started to change. Artists with a following started to try to make their own cartoons on their own terms, with their own studios, their own teams, without these big production companies in the way. It also just so happens that Glitch Productions was founded on May 24th, 2017, and about 4 years later they would make their mark with Murder Drones, which premiered October 29th, 2021. The pilot for Murder Drones currently sits at 83 million views, and you all really liked my comparison of views to population of a country's last video, so here it is again. That's close to the current population of Germany. And what's truly crazy is all of that would be completely blown out of the water by views on the Amazing Digital Circus a couple years later. And now, this powerhouse of indie animation, this production company that is leading the way, showing the world that animation does matter and can be insanely profitable, has expanded beyond this world of screening at festivals or online to now booking hundreds of major screenings confirmed for the US, Canada, Latin America, Australia, New Zealand, and numerous European and Southeast Asian nations. This is such a win for the world of animation and gives me so much hope for the futures of countless talented animators. Maybe even some I teach. Anyways, there's all my thoughts on stuff we got from this scene in episode 8, as well as some of my gushing about just how excited I am for Glitch, gooseworx, and all the creatives involved in this project. And of course, how excited I am for all of us, the fans. Anyway, thanks for listening to my rambling. More videos to come, but this might be my last Digital Circus video until the finale. I don't know, I might fit one more in. I thought about doing a video on what a big deal the finale going into theaters is, but I kind of talked about that here. I also have some stuff to say about the nightmare sequence, but it's hard to say if I'll get to that before the finale comes because I have some other projects I'm working on as well. But let me know what you think or if there's anything you'd like to see in the comments below. Thanks so much for listening to my rambling, and as always, take care of yourself.